I know most of you have already, let's see, this meeting is being recorded. There we go. Got it. Most of you have already taught a course or in the process of teaching a course. In the future, we'll get this information to folks even earlier, along with some personal interaction as well. Can we go to the first slide and we'll jump right in?
Sure, let me share the screen with you.
Thank you. So here's what our path looks like. If we go to the next slide for today, here's how we'll spend our time. If you go down to the arrows and push with that for the first time, there you go. And now you'll be able to use your normal approach, I think. All right. Welcome. Obviously, Joel's gonna, welcome us all and share a little bit about the program that we're all a part of. We'll get to know each other a little bit for the first opportunity to do that. I don't know that all of us have met yet. A little bit of a program update in terms of where we're at and what you're contributing to. Some faculty expectations, just so that we're all on the same sheet of music going forward. Information about enrollment so that you guys are also aware of where we're at and where we're going. And in the future, we'll be able to show you progress that we're making and what we're trying to achieve long term. A little bit about student engagement and some of the efforts that we're doing to connect with our workforce or our student population. And then a little bit about the university that we're all working for, as well as resources that are available through the library. Finally, just again, for alignment, how I hope we'll all work together. So with that, let's go to the next slide and I'll turn it over to Joel.
Good morning.
I would say very quickly, Joel, excuse me one sec, that we will have a break in between. So there will be 2 sessions instead of a very long one session. So we'll have a first session, which will cover what is on the left-hand side, a little break, and then we'll go through the second session on the right-hand side.
Perfect.
Well, folks, as Mark said, welcome to the program. Welcome to our second year, and we finished our first full academic year in summer. I am just absolutely excited about what we're going to do this year. I think that this builds upon a strong foundation. We are continuing to build and develop the program, and yesterday I spent the day at the new student orientation from our in-residence students, and I'm just filled with a lot of energy. And those interactions, as well as things like today and this meeting, really reaffirm my energy. It really fills my cup and fuels me for the next year and thinking about where we want to go and the change that we want to make. And so I want to spend a few minutes just talking about who we are and what you've gotten yourself involved in. And first of all, I know, well, it's nice to see all of you. And I know so many of you have been involved at various stages of the program. We'll get to know folks along the way. We have a relatively new team as folks are just coming in. We also have some veterans who have been around MENV since its inception, Lydia, who was part of the program development, our residential program. And so I'm just thankful for each and every one of you for giving of your time. And I know that you can choose to spend your time and your career in many different ways. And we're thankful that you really leaned in on the Outdoor Recreation Economy program. So the ORE program, I'll tell you how it sits here in our broader community in a second. I want to just talk briefly about how the program came to be and why we're doing the thing that we're doing. So if you can just go to the next slide, Pilar, that would be wonderful. So the Outdoor Recreation Economy program sits within a broader sort of umbrella, the environmental studies community. The environmental studies community is one of the largest communities or of its kind here in the United States. We have an undergraduate program. It's now about 800 undergraduates. We have about 50 research graduate students, and then we have our professional programs. And our professional programs, in their short time in existence, the Masters of the Environment, the residential program, and within that, the brand new ORE program, really set the tone for the way that the university conceives and wants to make its name and impact in professional programs. Our MEMB umbrella, the big professional master's program focused on sustainability, including ORE, is now one of the largest sustainability programs in the country. It's now the biggest between Michigan and in California. And so with that, the outdoor recreation economy, all of those students together, we have about 250 graduate students of various stripes, coming from a whole range of backgrounds. What's neat about the ORE program is it is the first of its kind anywhere that focuses at the intersection of economic development, at policy, and about sustainable business and leadership. The outdoor economy for us, that's what it truly means, is the intersection of these three competencies: business and economic development and policy. For us, that's really the strength and the support that is needed to drive the Colorado economy. We've also seen transitioning economies, and many communities are leveraging their outdoor assets. We also know that it's an important time in the country and beyond in the conversations around equity, around access, around economic development, about transitioning economies, around recognizing rights, and about allocation of resources. And so this is a great time to be involved in the program. This program started, probably it was about 4 years ago when some advisory board members came, and we discussed about how we were going to do a program like this because of the last few years, the recognition by not only the state, but the buildup of the outdoor recreation industry offices around the state. I think they're now 14. Colorado was the second office behind Utah. And then the recognition of the outdoor economy in the GDP. All of that collides to bring a really good time together to focus on the development of such a program that is sector specific. And at the same time, we've seen a real and dramatic shift in the way that we're thinking about the outdoor industry broadly, about the need for sophistication, the need for innovation, and the recognition that people involved in the program don't just grow up in the outdoor industry, right? And long had been the thinking that you could get in the industry if you were, a lifty, and then you grew up, so to speak, into this, into the organization, or you were a shoe rep and you moved through. But we know the outdoor industry is so much bigger than outdoor gear and working in the ski industry. It involves so many different competencies, and it's extremely sophisticated. It also needs people not just in the industry. And it's a yes and situation where there are people outside of the industry, from banking, from engineering, from marketing and branding, and from a wide range of sectors, that we need to bring these skills, talents, and experiences to bear to really change the outdoor economy and make it a place for everyone. And so with the outdoor recreation economy program, this program is where we developed it with two foundational goals. One, we believe that access to higher education is paramount for us, and we want to provide those opportunities and tailor to individual needs. And that means that we wanted to provide access at a different price point than the residential program for individuals who maybe wanted to take a class or level up to a certificate or level up further into a degree. We wanted to meet them where they are. And second is that we believe that the outdoors is not exclusive. It's a place for everybody. And that innovation and that sophistication comes from inclusion, not exclusion. And so we want to make sure that we provide both enriching opportunities and educational opportunities to support that foundational work that we're doing. So, and if you can go to the next slide, Pilar, thanks. So this is on words here. This is just a difference between the residential program and the ORE program. The ORE program still, it does involve a residential specialization within the MEMB degree, but why we're here and you're all involved is the online curriculum. That is it's a fantastic place to be. Again, we're pushing the boundaries of where CU is. Many institutions that some of you are already involved with are are already involved in online education. And frankly, CU has been a bit behind in its thinking. And so we're excited to have each and every one of you here because you're bringing those experiences, whether you come from or are still at University of Denver, whether you are at Colorado State or have experience from Colorado State University and other institutions. All of that experience, as well as your professional experience, is sorely needed and wanted. And I will say this is that our students look to you. They look to you in not just as an instructor, as the mentor, as a gateway to their new career. And frankly, folks like you, they look at you as either having or have had their dream positions. And I don't want you to take that lightly because it is very true. Many of you are seen as sort of the keys and the mentors towards where they want to go in their career, and you can help shape that. So what I'm looking forward to is as we build over the next couple of years, we have a new certificate coming, which Mark will talk about, our DEI in the outdoor industry certificate. It's what we're calling as a placeholder. But we intend to continue to grow and have offerings that will transcend the outdoor economy in a variety of different sectors and subsectors. And so we are hopeful and intend that not only will this program be a leader in its field, but also a leader in professional education and also here at the institution. So with that, I'm really thrilled that you're here. I also want to thank our wonderful staff members who are here as well. Pilar, who you met a number of times. Pilar manages our program and all the operations that we have here. You'll see her and her emails throughout, both tending to our students and supporting our students, as well as in supporting you all and supporting the program on the operations side, as well as many other things behind the scenes and certainly in front of the scenes as well to support our students and the faculty. And Catherine focuses on our communications and our enrollment, so and supports our marketing as well. And so we're working closely with her to not only build a strong enrollment, but also work to develop new partnerships and create new opportunities for students and support their retention as well as get out the message of the great things that our faculty are doing, as well as the great things that our students are doing, including their careers. So as we know that a strong recruitment, strong retention also means strong placement, and all of those feed into each other. It's one important sort of symbiotic relation. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over, I believe, to Mark. And thanks everybody for giving up your time. And I'll come back later to talk about faculty expectations.
I think I'm actually
sorry, I apologize for that, Catherine.
Yep, I think I'm gonna lead this slide, which is kind of captures exactly what our little next section is going to be. Getting to know each other a little bit better, and we all are familiar with one another's backgrounds, or we have a bio page on the website. So we don't need to kind of rattle through the list of things we've done. For the most part, we know each other. And so instead, Pilar and I thought it would be a great idea to have each of you share a little bit about what brought you to the Outdoor Recreation Economy program, kind of what inspired you to get involved in a program like this, and then maybe a high or a low from your time in the program, or something that surprised you that you weren't expecting about our students, or about the format, or something that you've learned since joining the program. We are going to do this alphabetically so that we don't all unmute ourselves and jump in all at the same time. So I'll call on folks, and I will go ahead and go first just to set the tone. So I'm Catherine Robinson. As Joel mentioned, I'm the Communications and Enrollment Manager. It's really great to meet the few of you that I've not worked with directly so far. And the thing for me that has been the most surprising about joining this program is just how incredibly enthusiastic and excited and engaged our students are. And, certainly we have a full spectrum, but there are a group of students that are just so excited about the opportunity to join this program, to join the outdoor industry. They want to be involved. Every opportunity that comes around, they're jumping on it. And I love to see that energy. With a fully online program, I it's always hard to tell whether we're going to have that energy and that excitement among the students. There are certainly some students in every online program who are here for a credential and to just earn the piece of paper that they think will be impactful to their career moving forward. And we accept those folks too, but a surprising number of students are extremely engaged in the program, which has been great to see. Alphabetically, the next person that I have is Anne.
Great, thanks, Catherine. I guess what interested me, well, I kind of feel like I fell into this, but what interested me about it is the ability to bring kind of the policy perspective to the program. I think it's really, really important for everyone involved in the outdoors to understand kind of the foundations of public lands, history of it, the policy that drives it. And that's true whether you're in nonprofit or business or government or just out there recreating on the lands yourself. And so I was really interested to see whether I could kind of create a survey course that introduces people to all of that. So then as they get into the specialty programs and courses, they have a foundation they can take with them. And whether I'm successful at that or not, I don't know. But that was my interest. One of the things that surprised me was actually just this week, my assignment for the discussion for the students was to, I shared with them the GovTrack website that tracks all the bills in Congress. And I gave them a subset of about 200 of them that had touched on outdoor recreation in some way or another. And I asked them to choose one or two of them and to describe the bill and the sponsors and who's interested in it and what the policy objectives of the bill are and whether they agree with it or not. And I can tell you at the beginning of the course, they could not have done that. And they just rocked it. I mean, they really did a great job. And I was so excited to see the quality of their work and their enthusiasm, as Catherine said, but kind of how much they've grown in 7 weeks. So that was surprising and fun for me. So thanks.
Kudos to you, Anne. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's super cool. Thank you for sharing that. Next, I have Cliff.
Hello again, everybody. And I guess where I'm positioned in ORE is I work most closely with Natalie in the community economic development specialization of ORE. And I began just under a year ago when I was hired to build the 5010, 5010 tools of community economic development in the ORE course, and then taught the course in the second session of spring semester this last academic year, and I'm planning to teach it again in spring semester this year. And I guess two surprises come to mind as much as anything else. The first was I'm not sure I knew exactly what I was signing up for to build a new course. It was a pretty daunting experience, and I think I worked almost every day for 4 months to try to get the course going, and that was with enormous amounts of help from Natalie and stealing and borrowing and copying all sorts of work she had done for her 5008 course. But it was a pretty incredible experience and also energizing at the same time. I mean, I was learning stuff as I was working out the modules, and it was kind of fascinating to sort of learn about, grading rubrics and, assignments and all of that sort of stuff. So, and then the other surprise was just the incredible variety of the students that were in the class. And it was the first time it was offered. It wasn't that large of a class, but there was a associate professor, assistant professor from DU in the class, interested in learning more about the outdoor recreation economy, and brought a pretty interesting background himself and contributed enormously to the class. And people who were really just interested in, I just want to get some practical understanding about the relationship between economic development and the outdoor rec economy. And they were going to do one certificate maybe, and that was pretty much the extent of it. And then everything in between. So I think that variety of students really contributes significantly to the experience of the class for all the students. We had multiple perspectives on some of the content and some of the, you know, the outlook for what they might do with the content. So I guess that's where I would. Those are the two things that jump to mind most significantly. And I should say at this point, and I apologize for having to do this, but I'm going to probably sign off around 10:30 to head up to Breckenridge, as Mark alluded to earlier today. And I'm sorry, I'm going to miss that second part, or some of the second part of today's meeting. But very exciting to see some new faces today, and look forward to working with you in the ORE program.
Absolutely. I hope you'll come next year and tell us that you were surprised by how much easier it was to run your course the second time than it was to help the first time.
Yeah, I hope so too. Running it wasn't the hard part. It was really just the slog of, you know, recording all these lectures, and, you know, I mean, and it was a learning curve for me, which is always, I enjoy that. That was a real high point for the building part of the course. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Gregor has joined us during Cliff's introduction, so I want to say hi to Gregor. We're doing some introductions and just sharing what inspired you to join the program, or what brought you to the program, and then a high and a low. I'm gonna have you go last, so you have some time to think about it, but I want to orient you to the activity so that you won't be surprised when I call your name. Next, let's go to Lydia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Lahan. Let's see, what brought me to ORE? Well, it was a little bit of personal circumstances. For one, as Joel alluded to, I started with the MENV program even before the first cohort of students arrived on campus. And I really enjoyed teaching and being a part of that program, but life circumstances intervened and we moved from the Front Range to Durango in what we thought was the middle of the pandemic, but turns out it was the very beginning. And was able to continue engaging with MENV for, I guess, one academic year, year and a half or so. And then with the launch of the ORE program, I worked with Joel and Ben at the time to get involved with the public lands and natural resources specialization. So, or certificate rather. I've got to get my MENV ORE lingo down. So I, honestly, I loved working with the MENV students, and I was really excited about the opportunity to stay engaged with CU, with the MENV program sort of circuitously, and be involved again with the start of a new program and focus. And, I work professionally. I've got a couple of projects with land management agencies, looking at various aspects of outdoor rec and outdoor rec management. So it was a good fit. One thing I will say that surprised me, and I'll echo some of the other comments, is the intensity of ramping up an online asynchronous course. Until this summer, I had only taught synchronously, remotely, because of COVID, and then in person. So that was, it was a lift that I didn't expect. But now going into my second course this fall, my second asynchronous course, I think I have a better sense of how to allocate my time. But on the flip side, one thing I was nervous about, I guess, was being able to maintain that same level of connection that I've had in the past with students, whether remotely and synchronously or in person with an asynchronous course. And echoing some of the other comments, it's just been so refreshing and exciting to see the engagement of the students and see them coming to office hours and working through some of these really complex policy problems that were discussing in class and really taking on the course material and owning it. So I wasn't sure what to expect when it came to working with students in a different context and capacity. And I've been really excited about how that's turned out. So that's
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and definitely echo that sentiment. It's been learning about the personalities and engagement styles of our students has been super rewarding. Next, let's go to Mark.
Thanks, Catherine. What brought me to ORE, right? I'm a purpose-driven leader, and I do this work because I want to do this work, and I'm passionate about, developing leaders with the capacity to build sustainable organizations that do well and do good, right? And so, I view this as our opportunity to have a huge impact, first on the students, and then the students can go out in the world and on the organizations that they're part of. So that's what gets me out of bed every morning. That's what brings me to work. As far as what I was surprised about, one, I started building online programs up at CSU with Natalie and learned a lot from her experience back in the day. And I agree, right? It is such a heavy lift to build these programs. So just a thank you to each of you, because of you, we've got this program off the ground and it's up and running with great quality content for our students. So thank you for that heavy lift. And yes, it does get easier, right? Because now we can just continue to refine and define. So I hope you take advantage of multiple iterations of these wonderful courses you built. And yes, I, like Lydia, have been pleasantly surprised about, I was skeptical, this was 5 years ago now, what would the quality of these types of asynchronous programs be? What would the interaction be like? How valuable do I think they would ultimately be? And I've always been pleasantly surprised, right? When done right, we can meet people where they're at. We can offer a very high quality experience, a great learning experience, and develop those relationships as well with our students and them with one another. So I'm really pleased. And then finally, Catherine touched on this, and I couldn't agree more, right? What excites me every day is how passionate these students are and how much they want to make a difference and how engaged they are. And that keeps me engaged and excited. So I'm thrilled to be here. And again, I'm grateful for all that you do, because we couldn't do this without you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, let's go to Natalie.
All right. What brought me here? Let's see. As alluded already, I was up at CSU working on their tourism professional master's program, particularly within ski area management. And so I think the idea of being able to go beyond just tourism and look at outdoor recreation more broadly was really interesting, especially because that really opens the door to being able to look more at the equity piece and looking at equity and access in a much bigger scope. And I feel like that's it's a much larger sort of playing field, right? So the ability to make a bigger difference, I think, is there, and the ability to work with a much broader set of communities was there. So that was definitely an attraction. Can I also say, Mark, working with Mark again was going to be a great opportunity. So something, that also helped with the decision too. What I have been surprised about, I'll be honest in that I haven't been surprised that the students are of the quality they are. This is a passion-driven industry. Attracted to a professional master's degree in this space of folks who are really wanting to make a significant life change. What I always love though is the variety of backgrounds that they come from, which I think Cliff alluded to. Is you have some really interesting folks who have done some really interesting things, and it's awesome to see how they come together in discussions and share that experience, and just the learning that can occur between students, separate to the instructor, has always been so inspiring. And just honestly, it makes grading discussion exercises so much fun because I get to learn a lot as well. So that's been something I've always enjoyed. I've really appreciated the support, honestly, as well, from the team. broadly, staff and faculty, I think we've worked really well in this last year, you know, to get things going. And that makes things helpful when you're in the grind of just trying to get these courses out and ready. And so just knowing, you know, we have the support there is great. And then, like Catherine said, you know, honestly, the quality of students this first go around has been fantastic. You know, the quality has been very, very high, and I really hope that continues because it kind of sets the standard, and I think they push each other further too. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Natalie. Pilar.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. For me, it comes down to what brought me here was Joel. I met him a few years ago and really appreciated the vision that he had and his working style and communication. And when I heard about the program, I followed the program very closely. So it was, I think it comes down to the format of the program, the whole vision of the program that I really believe in, and the community around it. And the community really, you know, is not only students, but also faculty and anyone that I've connected to in the outdoor industry. There is something special that I haven't found in many other groups. And I think it's down to authenticity and really interest to connect with each other and to really care for the outdoors. That makes it very meaningful to me. And as Mark said before, there is a great opportunity to make an impact. So when I put all those things together, I just have to be here. I just want to be here. What surprised me is how ignorant I am. My background is very different, so I don't have any outdoor background. And now that I'm feeling more comfortable with the program, I feel like it's time for me to jump into the outdoor arena and start getting some foundational knowledge. So yeah, send my way some whatever you think might be useful for me to know and learn and read. But that's really people and the whole program, the whole vision for the program. I particularly value the accessibility that Joel mentioned before.
Pilar, if you're interested in learning more about the outdoor industry and maybe even pivoting in, I have a great program I can recommend.
Thank you, Catherine. I want to know more.
Next, let's go to Gregor.
Hey everybody, and thanks for not locking me out of the room, for being late. I really appreciate that, and it's clearly a good place to work where that doesn't happen. You know, the door doesn't get locked right at 9 o'clock. So I joined ORE from the law school, where I still teach our field programs and direct a clinical program over there. I'm a water law specialist, but I'm also a terrible specialist in that I love touching absolutely everything, whether that's land use, oil and gas, rural development, whatever it happens to be. So when Mark Scalacci forwarded me the email from y'all looking for someone to take over the legal change course, it sounded right up my alley. And yeah, it's been a lot of work putting together an online course. It's my first time doing that. But it's been fun. I'll start teaching online for the first time next week. And I'm very glad to hear you all saying that you've had great interactions with students, and that the courses have been high quality. And I'd say I guess the surprising thing to me is the number of folks reaching out either from the law school, people getting their LLMs, or people getting their PhDs looking to enroll in my course in the fall, which is exciting because I think, you know, we should be interdisciplinary as possible, and that having folks with those different backgrounds, both personally, professionally, and academically, just makes the learning experience better for everyone. So I've been pleasantly surprised enrolling folks I wasn't necessarily expecting to see coming up to class next week.
Yeah, especially in that policy certificate, we definitely see some crossover interest from law school folks. So it's great to have you on the team and to help facilitate that relationship. Finally, Joel, if you'd like to share what surprised you most as we transition out of intros and into the next section with Mark.
Hey, you know what got me involved in this? I love this work. This is an absolute passion project of mine. And it comes full circle when I thought, growing up in Detroit, that I really wanted to do outdoor natural resource and conservation stuff. And my parents said, no, you go work in the automotive industry. So for those of you still driving on the road, my work and commercial trucks is still driving around there. So at some point you can ask me what that is. And I'll point it out. It's such a big deal. It's about this big. And so for me, I am just absolutely in love with this. I'm in love with the sector. It's a true passion of mine and something that I want to see really, really change. Because when I got into it and started talking about this, I had a company down in Cortez, and you may know which one this is, but I'm telling you, it's in Cortez, who said that the only way that folks are going to get into the industry is if they come work for me. I'm not hiring anybody who isn't from the industry. And that company is pretty well known in the outdoor products market. And that surprised me. And we continue to push. And I think that the conversations have changed. Look, when we first talked to OIA about programming that we want, this is the Outdoor Industry Association, one of the biggest trade associations in our sector. We talked about building curriculum around DEI. And they said, let's push pause. That's not where the industry is at right now. That's not what we need. That was only 2.5 years ago. And it's not to say that we were pushing anything that shouldn't have been pushed. It means that the industry both has rapidly changed and wasn't ready in a lot of ways for having some of these conversations. And so that to me really meant that it's time. We need to get out there and start doing this, because other folks weren't. So I'm really happy to be involved in that. What surprised me? I think what surprised me is the ebb and flow of people. We kind of knew that folks would come in and then they'd have life happen and then they'd take more classes and then they'd maybe stop for a while. I think that just modeling that in my head has been a little bit challenging for me to sort of figure out just in managing the program. What is exciting to me is all the people who raise their hands. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better team right now. And the folks who we brought on board, part-time and full-time staff and faculty, who say, yeah, I want to dig in and I want to lean in, and who know the challenges ahead of this with the kinds of students. And the last thing I'll say that also surprised me was that our students tend to be, now Catherine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that tend to be slightly older and more professionally mature than our residential students. And that surprised me. But I think about that probably is the case. So in the residential program, it's about 2 to 6 years of professional experience. And Catherine, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It sort of tends towards 6-ish or so and a little bit more. So that was surprising. And also something I think that you should notice too, with the kinds of individuals that we are bringing into the program and potentially the different ways that we might orient our curriculum. I'll stop now. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel. And definitely we'll dig in a little bit more to the demographics of our students after the break, but that was absolutely spot on in the trend that we're seeing. I'm going to turn it over, I believe, to Mark.
Perfect. Well, just a little bit about the role. The role's an evolving role. I'm obviously brand new to it. Joel and I are spending time figuring out exactly what it looks like. It's evolving because some of the responsibilities have been moved over into staff positions, and then we're trying to expand this to really help us figure out how do we make the most of this, right? And as I said earlier, the most of it, I like to say no margin, no mission, right? A successful business that we can create, which ultimately allows us to pursue our mission of creating these leaders that can go out in the world and make a positive difference. So, some of the roles associated with it, first and foremost, staff and faculty partnership. I want to understand your needs as we've had one-on-ones and talked about what you want. And I want to ensure that we keep you happy and that you're fulfilling and getting everything out of this that you want to get out of this, and so that we can leverage your great experience, expertise, wisdom, and impart that upon our students. So I will continue to have that conversation with each of you to ensure we're doing our best to find that win-win. Program strategy is key, right? Well, we're off to a great start, and you'll see in a little bit our numbers are trending in the right direction. We have some big expectations, and those expectations were pitched to the university a couple years ago, and that's how they invested in this program, and we have to deliver on those. So I would love to involve all of you as much as you want to be involved in our faculty staff meetings. There'll always be a strategy component on how do we do that, right? What does the industry need? How do we meet them where they're at? How do we create a compelling product so that we get both students as well as support from the industry and ultimately roles for these students as they graduate? So what are the future certifications? What are the key topic areas? What talent, types of issues are we looking at? What medium do we utilize? What resources do we need? Working with Catherine on strategy and all of you as well, right? One of the conversations we want to have soon is, well, okay, we've done a wonderful job of getting started. We're out there, people are enrolling. That's great news. But how do we continue to build our brand? Where do we get our biggest bang for our buck? Are there, not just in Colorado, not just domestically, but even internationally, are there key associations we want to align with? Are there key conferences we want to attend? Are you all interested in attending some of those on our behalf as a speaker or manning a booth or whatever the case may be? So we want to partner with you all to understand, okay, we've got limited time, we've got limited resources. How do we get our biggest bang for our buck? Where is that audience that we need to connect with? And how do we best connect with them with an offering that they would value? Also thinking about program elements. There was some performance done as it related to the future growth of this program, and it included things like exec ed, exec masters, things like that. None of those are set in stone. What is set in stone is we have to continue to grow. And we want to grow because we want the impact that comes out of that. So, brainstorming with you all on, well, what is the best path forward in some of our faculty staff meetings? And then once we get clear on that, beginning to put that into motion. Course sequencing, timing, making sure that we're meeting the students' needs by the way we've set up the program, as well as we're working within your schedules and that you're teaching the courses that you want when you want. Program evaluation, everything from, do we have the right certifications? Does faculty have the right support? Do students, are we bringing in the right students? Trends that we're seeing in the industry, and again, we'll rely on you a lot for all of this, is that what is happening out there and how do we, as Joel mentioned, as it relates to DEI, and I'll talk about that in a moment, how do we get ahead of these things? How are we ensuring that we're clear on who our customer is? Our customers are students, but our customer is also the industry, and that we're meeting their needs. How do we measure that? How do we keep our finger on the pulse? How do we have visibility into, are we trending in the right direction? Are we meeting our goals? If we're not, asking ourselves the right questions as to, there's a gap here, what can we be doing to shift the tide? And then industry partnerships. Again, with you all, you have a wealth of partnerships, but with all of us together, how do we really leverage these partnerships for everything from guest lectures to projects, as well as helping our students make those connections as they go off into the world? So just a high level kind of overview, and we're kind of figuring this out as we go along, but nothing happens, going back all the way to the top, unless you guys are able to do what you do. And again, we're very grateful for each of you. And first and foremost, we need to support you, and we want to ensure that we're meeting your needs so that we can find that win-win. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through this. You've got copies of it. You've seen it before. I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but we do have, thanks to all of you, academic year 22-23 all laid out. I think each of you are aware of how we're going about this year. We have individuals identified for everything in fall and spring semester. There's still some questions as it relates to the project course in summer, which we'll get to in the near future, but we have a little bit of time. But this is the flow. Again, I think you're all familiar with it. If there's anything surprising, feel free to reach out to me. But I think we're in good shape. And bottom line is that all courses are offered at least once throughout the academic year. And in the future, as we grow enrollment, hopefully we'll have the opportunity to add some more sections, add some more courses in the summertime for those students that, maybe they're a winter seasonal employee and they really want to skew their load more towards summer. We can ultimately enable that in the future. Next slide, please. Well, we're super excited about the next certificate. So as you know, we have currently 4 certificates. It takes 3 to get a master's degree. So students have some choice. In the future, they'll have more choice, right? We want them to be able to really build a certificate or build a master's degree based on their interests and their passions and their career direction. So the next one, as Joel mentioned, alluded to earlier, is we don't know the exact name of it yet, because once we get the certificate lead on board, we'll begin flushing it out. But DEI in the ORE. So as Natalie mentioned earlier, we're all incredibly passionate about equity and access, and we're super excited to launched this new certificate, and the students are demanding it. They're super excited because we had foreshadowed this and they're holding us accountable. So it's wonderful. The good news is we've got somebody identified who has agreed to come on board. We're finalizing the paperwork to, at a minimum, teach our first course, which will be launched in the spring of this year. The full certificate we plan to launch in the fall of next academic year. So the individual we've got that will be joining us, I'll give you more information as soon as everything's finalized, but super impressive record as an athlete. She's got a lifelong engagement in the industry, and she's a respected champion in the DEI space, specifically as it relates to the industry. So she's a wonderful human being. You'll all love her. The students will love her. We're excited. I think she's got a wonderful following in the industry and in this space of diversity, equity, inclusion, in this space of sustainability. So she will continue to help us, just like all you do, continue to make those industry connections and contacts. And then we'll also be launching the full search. So we have approval now to begin the full search for the certificate lead of the future for this certificate. And as soon as we get them on board, by the end of the year, hopefully, they will begin working with all of us on, well, what are the real needs? What does each course look like? What's the timing of each course? And then we'll go to work on building that next certificate. So stay tuned, more to come as it relates to that. Next slide, please. Joel, do you want me to take this? I know you have a hard stop at 10, or do you just want to dive in and get what you can get done, and then I'll pick up?
Sure, I can pick up here, and then I'll stop pretty soon here. So, for those of you who were in the residential program orientation yesterday, these align with those presentations, but I wanted to tailor these specifically to our online students. This is a professional program, regardless of the modality that we're in. And we expect that you will model professionalism in your communications, in the way that you treat our students with respect and dignity, and also inclusion of different perspectives and voices in discussions. And, sometimes those discussions may get tough, and we want you to be able to be respectful and be able to have those tough discussions, as well as be able to moderate those different viewpoints. Particularly around thorny issues. And you can imagine a whole host of thorny issues, whether in policy or economic development or in business, about the range of different priorities, the different backgrounds and experiences. And, one thing that I really want to encourage you all to do is think about what is the standard of evidence that you want folks to bring in, because a lot of these A lot of the discussion can be around sort of orientation, where people have come from and their experiences, professional or personal, and also what they're seeing. And I think that, you know, it's incumbent on us to focus on, you know, bringing in those different viewpoints, but how we want to bring those different viewpoints to bear, as well as what is that standard of evidence when presenting different viewpoints. So I'll leave that to you all. But again, there is no, as Gregor knows, this is not the law school, so you don't have to wear suit and ties. But, you know, we do want to make sure that you are professional and treat our students as such. You know, check your CU email account. I know that you have other lives outside of this. You may have an alternate email as well. Our communication is going to be through the CU account. So even if you don't mind just having that up once a day, particularly when you're teaching, that's how the students are going to respond to you. But we know that you're not always on the clock, so to speak. And so we ask that you periodically check that, because that's when our announcements and all the goings on of the program will be distributed all to you as well. And then communicate your availability to students. You know, these courses, say for the project course, are asynchronous. And so, you know, you are doing a lot of the work, as you know, up front. But when the program runs, we don't want you to just sit back, push play, and hands off, right? There are going to be a number of questions, either for clarity. There are folks who may want to meet with you. And largely, I would say that, as you've noticed, for folks who've already taught in this program, a lot of that is about, tell me your story. They want it's more for mentoring rather than discussion of problem sets, as you might imagine, say, from undergrad experience. Maybe there's some clarification that is needed, but a lot of that, again, that they see you as mentors and advisors and connections to the industry that they want to break into or accelerate in it. And so take that very seriously with the way that you respond to students. And not everybody's going to be on the mountain time. And that doesn't mean that you have to be up and responsive at all hours of the day or weekend. I encourage you to set boundaries and set those ahead of time, so that students know when you are going to respond to the email and how you're going to contact them. You don't have to respond in the evenings if it doesn't work for you. You do what works best for you. If it means setting an office hour in in the evening or in the morning, is fine. Just be able to be communicative with the students. Pilar, if you wouldn't mind going to the next one, please. Thank you. There is no official grading scheme for the program. You're not required to give any particular grades to students. You have to, of course, evaluate them and give grades. But in some cases, in some programs, you may be familiar with a scheme where only 30% of the students, or the top 10% of the students, are able to get A's. That's not how we work here. It's really up to you and how you grade. It's up to your pedagogy, which makes sense for the course that you run. We are a graduate program, so we uphold graduate school standards. But again, there's some other information about what it looks like for, grade below C and so forth. Those are graduate school recommendations, but how you decide on grading is up to you. Now, if you have questions about that, Mark is the lead, will answer that. And also, we have a number of veterans here who have been with the program a while and have taught both in person and online, and from different programs. So you're certainly welcome to share that practice within amongst each other as well. And certainly I encourage you all to ask one another. That's what we're here for. We are fierce advocates of one another. We are a community of practice together, and there's no secret sauce here. It's okay to ask people about what you have done, what you found works. And it's okay to say, hey, did this work? Did it not work? I found that last semester, this didn't quite land. It's okay. We should be able to be trusting of one another and respectful of one another, and be able to be vulnerable where things didn't go well. And I know that, sometimes it's tough for me to do. Sometimes students and other faculty think we're infallible, but of course we're not. We're still learning and on this journey. And so I want to invite you all to participate in that effort to help us all get better as individuals, and of course, to build the best program that we can. Pilar, I think, is there one more? Is that right?
Actually, Joel, I know you got to go. I have a couple more to add on faculty expectations. Why don't we let you go at this point?
All right. I wish you all a wonderful day. Take care, everybody. Nice to see everybody.
Thanks, Joel. Just a couple more points as it relates to faculty expectations. Because we are trying to meet students where they're at, right? We are dealing with students that have unique lives. They're not, full-time 24 hours a day focused on school. They have families, they're in different time zones, they have full-time jobs. I would ask that we give our students flexibility when we can, right? And I articulate this up front with them as well. Hey, you know what? You need to give me a heads up. Don't just miss the deadline and not make me aware, and then expect a lot of grace. But if you communicate with me early and often, we will try to accommodate your needs. So these students have different pressures on them. Now it's up to you, right? You're the instructor of record, and you can handle it as you want. But at the end of the day, we want students to have a good learning experience and come out of this more prepared to enter careers and have the impact. So if we can get them to produce good products by giving them some flexibility, I would encourage you to do so. There is some guidance, and I know I sent this out previously. We can send out another link just so everybody has it, about how we define at the university regular and substantive interactions. So, for example, I think it's at least 1 hour of office hours per week per course is the minimum expectation, for example, and availability via email and things like that. So whatever works for you. I know I've heard you all talk. I've met with you all. I know you're passionate about this. I know it's not an issue. You guys will do this naturally, but just be aware of what those expectations are. We will have monthly faculty and staff meetings. Those will be used to, one, just update you on some key things. How are our numbers trending? Are there some new policies? Are there some new resources that you need to be aware of? Are there concerns that are happening that you want to raise for the group that we can discuss? And I hope to pick your brains as it relates to strategy of the program, next steps, next certificates. I understand that those of you that are part-time faculty, this is a big ask. So you are not mandatory in these meetings. Really what I want to do is leverage you with our students. That's the number one priority. But you're more than welcome. So you're certainly invited. We'd love to have you there. And then at a minimum, it'll be Pilar, Catherine, myself, and the two are all the cert leads. So at the minimum, we'll have that. And then finally, and Pilar, I'm sure we'll share this, either speak to it today or maybe in the future, send it out. She has worked really hard to put together a faculty handbook so that we have all the information you could ever want in one place. And I know some of you have scrambled to figure that out somewhat on your own. So thank you for that. And now we're trying to put some tools and processes in place. So she'll share more with you about that in a little bit, but a really, really valuable resource to us all. So thank you, Pilar. Next slide, please. Mandatory reporting. I'm not going to read this to you, but
Did everybody lose Mark or just me?
No, I lost him too.
Okay. Pilar, do you think we should break early and do mandatory reporting after the break? This was our last topic before the break, so.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. And
but bottom line is we are.
Oh, Mark, we lost you for a while. Are you back?
I'm back. You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened to my internet. I switched over to my hotspot on my phone. So, okay, mandatory reporting. I'm not going to read this to you. You guys can read it yourself, but we are mandatory reporters and we have to take that very, very seriously. If we go to the next slide, it'll give us some information about when it applies. So bottom line is, doesn't matter how we hear about an incident that we feel needs to be reported, whether it's spoken or written or through a third party, we can't ignore it for any types of instance that we believe or we're uncertain about a person who has allegedly committed some sort of misconduct. We need to raise these issues. So if any of this information comes up, please feel free to reach out. We can get you in touch with the right people to take the right steps. Next slide. Okay. I think that's Catherine. Before we jump in, any questions or comments about all of that information we just shared?
I'll just throw there's the mandatory reporting policy in the chat, because there's a form that you can actually fill out to if something happens. I have had to do this, and so it's helpful to have an idea of what the process is.
Yes, thank you. That is helpful. I have not had to do it, so thank you.
So I think this is a time when we want to take a break, and hopefully we can get back together in about 10 minutes. So like something around 10:10 will be perfect.
Okay. See you all in just a moment. Fill up my coffee.
Return. We'll go ahead and get started in the interest of time. I think Natalie is fairly well updated on lots of this information. So on my end, I want to give a quick update on student enrollment. And not only the enrollment that we have, but also the efforts that we're doing to increase enrollment and how some of you may be able to plug into that. So to get started, a little bit about our student body. As you can see here on the screen, we have about 20 new students joining us in the fall. We have recently gotten a couple requests from admitted students for the fall to join us in the spring instead. So I'd say that's maybe a 15 to 20 new students joining for the fall, and about 40 students returning. Both of those numbers are split among students who are seeking the master's degree and will likely be with us for 30 credit hours and 3 full certificates. And then folks who are enrolling in just 1 certificate at this time and may stack into the master's or even individual courses. So definitely a wide variety of types of students among those students in the program. We tend to see students in this program in 3 main types. You've encountered all of them, I'm sure. We have folks who are fairly fresh out of undergrad, very early in their professional careers or haven't launched their professional careers yet. I would also classify the student athletes in this category as well, folks who are continuing from their undergrad into our program and are a little bit greener and need a little bit more guidance in graduate level coursework. That's the smallest category of students that we have in this program. They tend to be pursuing the master's degree, although some of the student athletes are in the certificate program. The second category is students with some professional experience in an unrelated or somewhat unrelated field who are looking to pivot into the outdoor industry. That's by far the largest category of students that we have in this program, coming from a huge variety of backgrounds. We've got a former practicing attorney, we've got accountants, we've got an incoming student who is coming off a 10+ year career in the FBI. So we've got an incredible wealth of pivoters from a very wide variety of backgrounds in the program as well. And then finally, we have folks who are already well experienced in the outdoor industry and are looking to either gain experience to advance or pivot their role. Those folks are more frequently enrolling in our certificate program. Broadly about our student body, as Joel mentioned, we do know that our students are older. Our average age is in the early 30s. We know that students in this program have some professional experience for the most part and are not coming in quite the lower levels of professional experience that we're seeing in the residential Masters of the Environment program. Our students are more likely to identify as women, with about 60% being women, and then around 40% being identifying as men, with some non-binary students in there as well. Representative of not only higher education in the state of Colorado, but the outdoor industry itself. Our students tend to be white, although we do have some representation among our students, and we are working very hard to increase that representation among our students, among folks who are diverse, not only racially, but also with ability and gender expression and all kinds of different diversity in the program. Pilar, if you'll go to the next slide and feel free to jump in.
Yes, I would like to say too that, as you said, most of our students are full-time professionals, so they have one or even more jobs, and very often a family behind, so super busy people who are very committed to the program and very willing to put time, but at the same time, they don't have all the time. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. A great addition. The vast majority of our students in this program have a full-time job. Some students have part-time jobs, but most of them are working full-time, oftentimes in the industry that they're looking to leave behind. And so they're working their day job as an accountant and then attending this program in order to try and pivot into a role that's more aligned with their values. So things that we're working on just for you to be aware of, and certainly there will be opportunities for you to plug in with things like this. So we host monthly events, including a one time a semester open house, which we invite faculty involvement to participate, working on all kinds of different initiatives to help boost student enrollment, including email campaigns and digital advertising and social media and one-on-one appointments and meetings with me, industry partnerships like our Basecamp partnership, which we recently did a series of events and an email newsletter inclusion and social media posts and a variety of things with them. So as we continue to ramp up student enrollment, there will be opportunities to get involved. Likely those emails will come from me, and we would absolutely love to have your involvement, whether it's at something like attending the Outdoor Retailer Conference or hosting an event for prospective and current students to engage with you live and synchronously, but via Zoom. Opportunities like that, I would absolutely love to have your engagement and your buy-in. As Joel and Mark have both alluded, we have very aggressive enrollment growth intentions. We intend to grow this program quite a bit beyond what our student enrollment currently is. And in the 5-year trajectory, the student enrollment growth is in some ways exponential from where we are today. So we look forward to your partnership and your engagement as we embark on that journey. Any questions on student enrollment for me now? I'm going to be turning it over. Okay, Pilar.
Yes, so I'd like to speak a bit about the initiatives we are embarking in with the idea of student retention and student engagement. We are starting our 2nd year of the program. We can see that indeed as students join the program, they are really excited and committed, but then very often life happens. And we see that, they get busy with many other things, and they often opt for taking some time off, and that's okay. That's also part of the format of the program, that we want to allow that flexibility. But how can we keep those students, and really any student in the program, how can we keep them engaged? The challenge is really to keep a good balance between acknowledging the time constraint that very often they have, and also this, the need for a sense of community. How can we build some community within the program, within the students in the program, while not putting a lot of, ask on them to participate in activities? So that's where we are trying to navigate here. So this is what we are doing for what we are planning to do this year. So in terms of communication, you might be receiving the ORE jobs newsletter. And I don't think I've sent it to Cliff and Gregor. You feel free to tell me if you want to receive it, and I will add you to the distribution list. I thought I didn't want to overwhelm you or, put too many emails in your inbox. Anyways, this is a kind of bi-weekly newsletter that we are sending to our students with job opportunities in the different certificates. We try to keep it simple in the way that we only have the title of the job, and we organize the jobs by level of, level of experience. So we have entry-level jobs, mid-career jobs, and executive level jobs. We have different sources that we look at, but we welcome any inputs you may have. So if you come across a good, cool job that you would like to share with the students, please send them my way, and I'll make sure we post it on the newsletter. We have a great click rate and open rate, so students really appreciate this. It seems to be something they really enjoy and appreciate it. As of yesterday, we have Catherine's baby, which is the chairlift. This is another newsletter, and it's really more about the program, and really that's the one that is gonna promote community building and really connect each of us. So this is gonna be once a month, I believe on the third Thursday of the month. And again, I'm sure Catherine will be happy to post whatever you want to share with the students. So if you haven't received it and you would like to receive it, let Catherine or me know, and we will add you to the distribution list as well. Also, as from yesterday, we have a Slack channel. In the past, we used to have a Facebook group, which was really an opportunity for students to connect with each other, and that didn't really take off much. And we've heard from the MEMB program that the Slack channel seems to be the way to go. So we are replicating that. And so far, I think it's been quite well accepted and people are joining. And I think in the future, we'll have to see. But for now, Catherine is going to manage the Slack channel. And again, another opportunity for students to connect with each other. Social media, of course, we have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn account, and we also have a YouTube with limited but really powerful videos that you are fully free to access and share with anyone you want to share. So we have recordings of our open houses and some of the information sessions there, so feel free to check them out. And then we keep communication with the students through regular emails. When a student, and I want to tell you what I do so that if students want to, ask you, the moment I hear from Catherine that a student is admitted in the program and has declared the intent to enroll, I send them a welcome email. And that welcome email is really that. It's a welcome, we are happy you're here, and we will be connecting with you soon. The next step email is that where I share the course schedule and I really engage with them and try to tell them how to enroll in courses and how they can connect with us in different ways. And I finally send a reminder to everyone, really, a few days or even a week before classes start. The reminder is really, it's really for everyone to know, hey, we are getting ready. Don't forget, classes are around the corner. You'll be able to have access to your Canvas courses in a few days. Check it out before classes start. And don't forget to enroll if you haven't yet. So it's like kind of a last call. Then in terms of social, we are hoping to launch a student coffee hour. This is a student-run coffee hour for students. So none of us is supposed to be there. Our GSA, Samantha Brown, Sam, will be leading this initiative. And again, another opportunity for them to connect. We are hoping to do that once every session. So there will be one in fall session 1 and another one in fall session 2 and so on. Then we thought about having a faculty-led roundtable. Again, this falls under the social, so it's supposed to be another social gathering. And hopefully the fact that we have a faculty member there might lead to engaging conversation around the faculty area of expertise. And I want to be strategic and intentional and really look at enrollment numbers and what is the interest of the students, what time of the year we are, if there is any kind of timing matter that might be appropriate to talk about. So I might be reaching out to you at different times and see if you will be willing to participate in one of those. It's not really a big commitment. It's going to be, I'm planning for 1 semester, so really 3 in the year. And hopefully there will be a Q&A at the end. So again, an opportunity for students to engage directly with one of you and their cohorts. Hoping to have some professional events as well. So we are looking at having a live virtual speaker, hopefully one per session. So again, 2 a semester. I have a couple of names that I'll be reaching out, but I might also, I also welcome your ideas. If you have someone that you think, hey, I know really someone who will be perfect to talk with a student, this person is available, let me know. And I'm super happy to, if not for now, for later, but I'm putting together a list of names of people that we can invite to talk with the students, again, live and virtual. And then we have our new student orientation that happens once a semester. We just had the last one a few weeks ago, and we will have the next one sometime in December. We try to have it a few weeks before the semester starts. And again, we welcome students who have been admitted in the program, whether or not they have declared their intent to enroll. This is another opportunity for them to, to know more about the program, and finally make their mind that they wanna enroll, and they know what they need to do next once they do that. And my plan is to connect with the students one-on-one once a term, halfway through. I just want to check in and see how they're doing, if they have any concerns, if they have any questions, if I can be of any assistance. So I'm planning to start doing that in fall session 1. So this is what we are working on in terms of student engagement. And I believe the next slide is going to be about someone who hasn't come yet. We're supposed to, let me see, what time is it? We are a few minutes earlier. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have while waiting for our next speaker, or any idea or any feedback.
Pilar, when is the next session scheduled to start?
10:30.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes for questions if anybody has any.
More of a comment. Thank you for all that, Pilar. You mentioned these guest speaker opportunities, and we have a couple pretty big guest speakers coming up that we could leverage for ORE. I think I heard, Catherine, you were already planning to live stream the Luis Benitez conversation, which will be happening in September. So Luis has a unique background from, guiding the 7 summits and summiting Everest 6 times, and moving then into Outward Bound and executive education through experiential, then into the corporate world, was leading the outdoor industry office of Colorado, which we had the 2nd office in the country, and now is the Vice President of Government Affairs and Global Purpose for BF Corporation. So, the uniqueness of his story and how he has moved through the industry and how he's really focused on purpose and impact and has had a very successful career, I think will be interesting to our students. The other one that we have at the end of November is the former CEO of Patagonia, Rose Macario. I always screw up her last name. She's coming for a bigger event that I invited her to on campus, but we have secured a separate session with her with the MENV students. So I think we should figure out how to leverage that to where we can invite the local ORE students to attend in person, and once again figure out maybe there's a live stream way we can do that. So there's a couple teed up for us this semester.
Pilar, I have a couple of thoughts, and then I'm going to bolt from the call. We talk a lot about, especially in the community economic development specialization, about outdoor rec and in rural communities, in rural locations. And there are some really terrific things that are happening in outdoor rec and in the community economic development space across Colorado and across the country. And so, this would probably be more of a Zoom kind of speaking opportunity, but There are a number of people that I could suggest, and Natalie probably twice as many as that. So this idea of a rural perspective on outdoor rec and community economic development might be something to consider.
That's great. Thank you so much, Cliff. Yes. My head again. My whole idea is
Did anyone
plan ahead of time as possible. So if you have a couple of names and you want to share with me, that'll be great. I will start, contacting people and sort of lining them up in the year.
I'll also throw out too that, as we start to organize guest speakers for the on-campus MEMV SOI students, so sustainability in the outdoor industry, I think some of those could be really relevant. We've got a couple of names on a short list that are pretty big profile speakers. And so we'd want to definitely be doing a virtual streaming, or at the very least a recording that I think our ORE students could benefit from too. And I don't know, Gregory, if that ends up being something similar for you with ENRP too. So
absolutely.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
Goodbye for now, everybody.
Thanks for attending, Cliff. And it looks like we have Jess here.
Yes. Hi, Jess. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So everyone, this is Jess Morris. She is the Employee Onboarding Program Manager here at CU Boulder. And she's here to tell you about CU Boulder in general, and especially for those who are new to the university. And with that, I will turn it over to you. Go ahead. I will stop. Do you want me to stop sharing the screen so that you can?
Sure, yeah, and then I'll share my slides as well. So thanks so much, Pilar. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of you and meet you. Welcome to CU Boulder. So as Pilar mentioned, my name is Jess Morris and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Employee Onboarding Program Manager in the Department of Human Resources. So my role is to support faculty as they enter the university. I primarily work with university and classified staff and research faculty, and Pilar had reached out to me to ask what we can do to support part-time faculty and adjunct faculty. And I said, that's a great question. So we kind of put our heads together and thought about what information would be most relevant to all of you in your roles, and kind of given, the program that you're working in and kind of your engagement with our students and with the university. So I have kind of an abridged version of some of the information that I share with our new staff members, and hopefully that will be interesting and relevant for all of you. And of course, if you have questions about anything else related to onboarding, or if something that I share with you kind of sparks another question, please feel free to ask any questions that you have or follow up with me after. I know you're on a little bit of a tight timeline today. You've got a lot of information and content to get to. So all that being said, what I have been asked to share a little bit about with all of you today is first kind of the history and origins of CU Boulder, as well as the CU system in general, and kind of how all of that came to be, along with the CU Boulder land acknowledgement and kind of how that factors into the university's origins. I'll explain a little bit about the university's executive leadership structure, and also opportunities related to campus governance and kind of those shared governance groups that we have here on campus. And then I will share a bit of information just related to employee perks and resources, just things that are good to know as new employees and things that you all have access to now being employed by the university. So I will kind of dig into all of that. So the origins of the university. So when the university was first established, it was actually before Colorado became a state. So it was back in 1861 that the legislation was signed, which was the act to establish the University of Colorado. So at the time, we were a territorial institution. And then once Colorado was admitted to the Union in 1876, it was actually written into the state constitution that that territorial institution of the university at Boulder became a state institution. And then there was a little bit of a lag time between when that took effect and then when the university officially opened about a year later in 1877. With these origins and kind of how the university came to be, so part of the delay in between the university being signed into the state constitution and when we actually officially opened for business, you could say, part of the agreement was that citizens in Boulder had to raise $15,000 of matching funds to construct the university's first building, which is this one right here, which is called Old Main and is still standing today for those of you that have been on campus or are familiar with campus. And so the raising of those matching funds and then the construction was part of what took a little bit longer for the university to kind of get started.
I don't think we're seeing the same thing you are, because I don't see Old Main. When you just circled it, it was your signature block.
Well, that's not helpful at all, is it? Hang on just a second. Let me make sure the right screen is sharing. Hold on. Are you seeing that now? Maybe?
Hang on, it's thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
It says you're starting to share your screen.
The next slide.
There it is. Now we see Old Main.
There we go. And then it just almost kicked me out. There we go. Do I still have everybody? Okay. Sorry about that. Zoom issues to kick us off this morning on a Friday.
We don't see your screen though now.
Now I have to reshare. All right,
Yeah.
Let's back it up here just a moment. Hang on. How's that?
It's thinking. There it is. We got it.
Looking good. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. So now you can see this building here, which is Old Main. So that was the first building that was constructed on campus, that citizens of Boulder had to participate in raising those matching funds in order for it to be constructed. So in kind of the storytelling of the history and the origins of the university, we like to kind of share that because I think it kind of signals that there's always been kind of this partnership between the university and the city of Boulder. How that partnership has evolved over time has always been a little bit of a roller coaster relationship. But the city of Boulder has always been very involved right from the get-go. Along those same lines, given that the citizens of Boulder were very involved in kind of that initial process and the origins of the university, it's also really important to acknowledge the land that the university sits upon. So I wanted to share the land acknowledgement. And we acknowledge that the land where we work today in Boulder County is within the territory of the Arapaho people. We honor Chief Left Hand, leader of the last band to spend their winters in the Boulder Valley. Many Arapaho people were massacred by the U.S. cavalry at Sand Creek, Colorado in 1864. The survivors were forced out of Colorado to reservations in Wyoming and Oklahoma, where most Arapaho live today. So that's kind of a little bit of the history, and then the land acknowledgement portion is as follows. We recognize that the university sits upon land within territories of the Ute and Arapaho peoples. Further, we acknowledge that 48 contemporary tribal nations are historically tied to lands that make up the state of Colorado, In our daily lives, let us honor and respect that Boulder Valley is home to the Arapaho people and to many other tribes that also camped, hunted, and traded here for centuries. Native people of many indigenous nations live here today. And then these two photos that I've included, just a quick sort of anecdote related to the land acknowledgement and kind of that history that the university has had to kind of grapple with over the years. So this photo on the left here, this is one of the residence halls that was formerly called Nichols Hall. And this shows it when it was under construction in 1954. This is one of the residence halls that's kind of centered around Farron Field, if you're familiar with that area of campus. And so that residence hall was named for a man named David Nichols. He was a very prominent Boulder resident who was active in politics and at the time was very involved in raising those $15,000 of matching funds that I mentioned. So since he was pretty involved in kind of establishing the university, so it made sense, right, to kind of name a building in his honor on campus. However, it was later found out that David Nichols was also one of the people who participated and actually led a company of volunteers to the Sand Creek Massacre, where hundreds of indigenous peoples, mostly women and children, were slaughtered. And when students found out about this, there were lots of protests. And in the 1980s, students pressured the Board of Regents to dishonor Mr. Nichols and change the name of that residence hall. So the regents agreed, and with permission from both the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes, they renamed that hall to Cheyenne Arapaho Hall. And they actually still have some elders from those tribes that actually come into the residence hall and do programming with the students so that they understand that history and have an opportunity to, you know, build that bridge and that connection between communities, which I think is really nice for students to understand where it is that they're living. So just wanted to share that side note as well. So that kind of takes us back to the origins of the university. That was a little kind of side note related to the land that was donated for the university's use originally. So after the establishment of CU as a state institution was written into the Colorado Constitution, then there were two important amendments that took place that impacted kind of the creation of the CU system. So the first amendment took place in 1923, and that amendment authorized the regents to operate the departments of medicine, dentistry, and pharmacy down in Denver. So originally the medical school was part of the Boulder campus, and then they moved it down to Denver. So that was kind of already happening in Denver, but it was considered an extension of the Boulder campus. So that amendment made it official that those departments could operate in Denver, and that's what established the Anschutz Medical Campus, although it wasn't called that right away at that time. And then in 1972, the Constitution was further amended to describe the university to be at Boulder, at Denver, and at Colorado Springs. So again, classes were already being taught in these different locations, but they were all considered extensions of the Boulder campus. And now they are 4 separate campuses that comprise the CU system. So that second amendment was the larger one that really established the 4 campuses under the president's office and then created a chancellorship for each campus, which moved the administrative duties of each campus to the chancellor. So the president, Todd Salomon, he's the president of the CU system, and then each campus has its own chancellor that oversees those duties for each campus, which I'll talk about in a little bit more depth now as it relates to our executive leadership structure. So the CU Board of Regents is the governing board of the University of Colorado system. And again, this was established under the state constitution. So the Board of Regents has 9 voting members. One regent is elected to represent each of Colorado's 7 congressional districts. And then there are 2 other regents elected by the state at large. They serve 6-year terms, and those are staggered so that not all of the regents are elected or turn over at the same time. And this is a kind of a unique structure that we have because they are the only elected higher education governing body in the state and only one of 4 in the country. So most boards, most regents are appointed and not elected. So if those of you that don't live in Colorado may not be as familiar with this structure, if you do live in Colorado, or if you choose to register to vote in Colorado, you may come upon a time where you see these regents on your ballot. And it's important as both a citizen in the state, someone who votes here, and it's especially important as a university employee because you really do have a true say in the decisions that get made because you have decisions. So it's kind of a unique thing to have an opportunity to vote for the regents as both an employee and as just a member of the community. So the regents oversee the university's budget, they hire the university's president and other top officials, they set tuition and priorities for the university. And then the president reports straight to the board of regents. So Todd Salomon is our president. He served as the interim president for about a year before officially being named the permanent president this past year. Before he served as president, he was the CU System's senior vice president for strategy, government relations, and he was the chief financial officer. He's also a CU Boulder alum, so I like to think that he has a little bit of a soft spot for our campus. At least he made it seem so when he spoke about it at commencement in May, so we'll go with that. And then, as I mentioned, each campus chancellor reports to the president. So here on our campus, that is Phil DeStefano. So he's been with the university for about 45 years. He was appointed chancellor back in 2009, and he originally joined the university in 1974 as an assistant professor of curriculum and instruction in the School of Education. So then the areas that he oversees would be, so these 5 individuals report straight to the chancellor. That would be our chief operating officer, Pat O'Rourke, our provost, Russ Moore, our senior vice chancellor for diversity, equity, and inclusion, Sonia de Luca Fernandez, our vice chancellor for advancement, Katie Kudlarczyk, and our athletic director, Rick George. So the 2 largest divisions fall under the COO. So Pat O'Rourke oversees the Division of Strategic Resources and Support. That's the division that I report up through as a part of Human Resources. And then our provost, he's also considered our chief academic officer. And so he oversees academic affairs, which would technically be kind of where you all report up through, as he oversees all of the colleges, research institutes, all of the everything on the academic side. And so I could go into a lot more detail about those divisions, but for our abridged purposes today, I'll leave it there. And if you have additional questions, like I said, I'm more than happy to answer those later if you want to follow up on that. Kind of the last piece related to our campus structure and leadership is this concept of shared governance. So shared governance is a structure and a process that we have for partnership, equity, accountability, and ownership in order to incorporate input from all of these different representative bodies of everyone on campus. So there are 4 governance groups on campus. There's the Boulder Faculty Assembly, or the BFA. There's staff council. We have our undergraduate student government, and then we have our graduate and professional student government as well. So in a lot of ways, I think that this kind of parallels, that unique structure we have with our Board of Regents, given that they are elected and not appointed. So there is an opportunity for anyone and everyone on campus, depending on their role, to be active in one of these governance groups. and again, have a say in the way that decisions get made or share their input about things that are happening on campus. So if that's something that is of interest to you that you'd like to learn more about, I'm happy to share resources and websites with all that kind of additional information, but wanted to just make sure you knew that was a thing that we have here. Lastly, so this is what I call kind of like our bragging slide. Just a little bit more about kind of the university in general. So CU Boulder is a member of the AAU, which is the Association of American Universities. There are 65 member universities across the country that really help shape policy for higher education across the country. And we're the only member in the Rocky Mountain region. Along with that, we are an R1 Research 1 level university per the Carnegie classification of institutions of higher education. So as you probably know, that's used to indicate universities in the US that engage in really the highest levels of research activity. And our top funding sources come from 5 federal agencies, which are NASA, the National Science Foundation, the Department of Commerce, the National Institute of Health, and the Department of Defense. We also have 5 Nobel laureates that earned their Nobel prizes as faculty at CU Boulder. The first was in chemistry, and then the 4 that followed were all in physics. So something that we're very proud of, and something that we all take a lot of pride in, even if, like me, as a student here, I never took a single chemistry or physics class, but I can still be proud of that. It's still something that we all accomplished together, right? So, and then you may hear more and more talk about these kind of strategic priorities that the university is really focused on right now. So there's kind of these 5 priority areas of research leading the way, a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, creating a student-centered campus community, sustaining, supporting, and inspiring our community, which is really focused on health and wellness of both students and staff and faculty, and then campus success, which really incorporates, of course, student success, as well as the financial success and wellness of the university, the physical campus itself, and infrastructure. So something that I really like to share with new employees, because I often have employees in onboarding programming that come from just a wide array of departments and research institutes and different areas on campus, that really, no matter what our role is at the university, we're all contributing to at least one and maybe all of these 5 strategic priorities. And so again, we all have input, we all have a say, we all have an opportunity to really participate in not only the way that those decisions get made, but really an opportunity to influence the direction that this university is headed in the future, in a really positive way, hopefully. So while we all have to, own that piece, we also get to own, the pieces of being a part of a campus that has all this really incredible research happening. At the beginning of the academic year, there's a lot of, excitement and just a lot of events and programs and things happening on campus that hopefully we can all kind of pull from that energy and excitement, even if we're not physically on campus. I do my best to kind of emote that even via Zoom. So hopefully you're picking up on a little bit of it. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that kind of, historical context with you, and kind of, current present day operations and priorities, just to give you a sense of, the community that you're joining, and hopefully give you a little bit better understanding of this wonderful place that you are a part of now. So just wanted to welcome you and congratulate all of you on your new positions with the ORE program. You're in wonderful hands with Pilar and everyone who's involved over there. And if you're interested in learning a bit more about anything that I shared with you today, or some of the other things that we have going on. So a couple things that I'll share. This first one, and I'll open this just in another tab for you. And I can send this out to everyone after the session today. So one of the things I really like to share with new employees is all the information related to perks. So this is separate from, you know, the benefits that are offered to permanent employees, but all employees are eligible to receive these various perks that we have. So I know not all of you are physically in Boulder, but there are some perks and resources that are, you know, local. So things like childcare, but there's also a lot of remote perks and resources. So under things like counseling, support, and wellness, including our faculty and staff assistance program. So this is an internal employee assistance program with licensed counselors who are available for support. Every employee receives access to this program. And this is really related back to that strategic priority of focusing on health and wellness of everyone in our campus community. So they offer both in-person and teletherapy options for appointments. Everyone on campus receives 1 free intake session and then up to 6 free counseling sessions per year that can be used for absolutely anything. So a really wonderful program to be aware of and take advantage of if that is of interest to you. I could spend probably 2 hours alone talking about all of these discounts that we get. There are so many. So definitely poke around and take advantage. Over the summer, my boss planned a trip with her. They went on vacation to California, and through Benefit Hub, they got discounts on their rental car, they went to California and they went to a couple of different amusement parks, and they got like awesome discounts at a bunch of the parks. So there's tons and tons of stuff in these discounts, whether it's, you know, stuff that you use every single day, or, you know, special things like vacation discounts, which we all could, you know, take advantage of. So tons of discounts to be aware of. You're also able to take advantage of, you know, learning and professional development opportunities here on campus. So definitely take a peek at those if you're interested. There's so much information here. So just want to make sure you know this is here. You know, spend some time, you know, playing around in there. And then if you have questions about any of it, I'm happy to help or point you in the right direction. This was a resource, and I know you may have gotten some of this information already, but this was another, whoops, let me put it back in this window for you. I did another orientation earlier this week for other tenure track faculty, and one of our colleagues from OIT shared some academic technology tools and resources that were really helpful. So I wanted to pass that along to all of you as well. Again, some of it might be repetitive, but there's a lot of information there as well. And then lastly, I also wanted to invite any or all of you that might be interested to attend the new employee welcome experience. So where this is kind of the signature program that we have on campus for our new employees. There's a full day program that folks can attend that's in person. And then we do also have a virtual version for those that are working remotely. So if you're interested in kind of a little bit more deeper, you know, a deeper dive into kind of the history of the university and the campus tour and things like that, I would love to have you participate. So if you're interested in that, I can help you get signed up, whether that's the in-person version or if you would like to participate virtually. It's just another great way to, again, learn more about the university, potentially meet other new employees that are in similar kind of positions of, you know, being new to CU. So that was just kind of a super, super quick version of some information to share with all of you. And again, if you have any questions, I think I have about 6 minutes left on my time for right now. I usually talk pretty quick, but I also talk a lot. So 6 minutes left over is pretty impressive for me. And I'll share these slides with all of you as well if you want to take a look back at any of this information. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer things now. Or if you think of any questions later on, my contact information is on there as well. Questions that any of y'all are thinking about?
Super helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure. You're welcome. And I'm going to get these slides into a shareable version. So I'll put the link right here in the chat. And then I'll send it to Pilar as well. And then if you want to send that out to everybody, you'll have that as well. So, and yes, I just saw your comment in the chat about Glory, Colorado. Yeah, we actually pull some of the information from our campus tour straight from there. Yeah, I have skimmed it. I have not read all 2,000 pages, I will admit, but
I know that that's exactly what everyone's gonna run out and do this afternoon.
Of
Is pick up
course.
both volumes, read them over the weekend.
Absolutely.
I'll expect your book reports on Monday, everybody.
Yes, yes. I have a copy in my office if anyone is interested.
Have you read it, Gregor?
Oh yeah, that was some of my free time as an undergraduate was working my way through both volumes. Yeah, that was before I had kids and too many jobs and everything else. But you know, this is a professional program. I believe in you, Mark. You can make it happen.
Another cool place to get a lot of that information, if you don't want to read it and just want to absorb it, on campus is the Heritage Center, which is CU's History Museum. They have some really incredible exhibits of, they have like a space gallery. So they have a lot of information about all of the various astronauts that are affiliated with the university that, you know, they have like their spacesuits and moon rocks that they've brought back and just lots of really cool information. A couple of the Nobel Prizes are actually like the medals are actually there in the Heritage Center. So that might be as close as most of us are ever going to get to a Nobel Prize. And my personal favorite is the Lego exhibit. So they have a Lego replica of campus that is one of the coolest things I have ever seen. It's amazing. It's massive. So if you get a chance to check that out on campus, it's another cool spot to learn and just sort of absorb more cool information.
Yeah, and I think our university has some of the most illustrious dropouts in the nation as well. I want to point out that we produce some of the greatest dropouts. You know, Robert Redford, Glenn Miller, you know, the creators of South Park. So even when people don't reach the finish line, CU puts you on the trajectory to greatness.
We prepare them for whatever the future holds, whether it's a degree from us or not. Yes, we talk about all of those. Jeff. We talk about all of them on the tour, and I have to very carefully say, you know, they attended CU for like X number of semesters, and people are always like, so they just attended. They didn't graduate. And I was like, you can read between the lines there. Yep.
Well, Jess, thank you so much. It's been super informative and helpful. I think folks might have some questions as they go through all the resources you have shared with us. But more than anything, thank you for being willing to join us today and share and put together all these resources and pieces of information. So great that you were here today.
It's my pleasure. Welcome everyone again, and congratulations. And I wish you the best of luck with the start of the semester. Bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, Caroline. Can you hear us?
We can't hear you.
In the meantime, I will say this is Caroline Singinson. She works in the CU library. She is an associate professor. She is the head of the lead learning and engagement team. And she's joining us today to share some great resources for both students in the program and faculty and staff and really anyone. I'm super thankful that she made time for us today. So hopefully her microphone works.
Yeah, thank you, Pilar.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to have time with you all today. And again, thank you, Pilar, for inviting me. As she mentioned, my name is Carolyn Sinkinson, and I lead the learning and engagement team within the university libraries. And before I sort of jump in to share some resources and things with you today, I wonder if you might tell me who you are in the chat, perhaps, or with your microphones, maybe who you are, where you are. That would be lovely.
Well, do you prefer it in chat or via the microphone? I'm Mark Guest, teaching in the ORE program. I've been at CU now this is just finished up my 3rd year, going on my 4th, and I live in Boulder.
Nice. Thank you, Mark. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Lydia's in Durango. I'll just pick on someone. Gregor, where are you?
Sure. So I'm Gregor McGregor. It's not a joke, but it's funny, so you're allowed to laugh. And I teach at the law school in MANV and ORE, and I'm based out of Boulder.
Nice. Nice to meet you. And thank you, Catherine and Anne and Natalie. Nice to meet you all. Well, welcome, and I hope you're having a happy Friday so far. My plan for us today is to share a bit about the libraries, the people, the services, the collections, as well as how faculty and students can benefit from those offerings. And then I'll share a little bit more customized content for the outdoor recreation economy students. But I'm pretty informal. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time, and or we can take questions towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now. And hopefully you can see these slides. Okay.
We can.
Okay. So to start, I wanted to kind of share a few scenarios that one might imagine about how students might be supported by their librarians, regardless of where they might be. And so in this first scenario that I'm going to describe, we're imagining Jason is a student and he's struggling with a research project, and he'd like to speak to a librarian, but he's a little nervous about doing that and not really sure how to go about getting in contact with a librarian in the best way. He might be struggling because he can't find credible sources. It might be that he can't find the digital version of the source that he wants to use, or maybe he's like struggling with formatting his citations in an ethical and correct way. But wherever he is struggling within this process, there are lots of ways that we in the library can help students. One great way is our Ask a Librarian service. I don't know if any of you have used this before, but it's a live chat service on our webpage and found throughout our databases and our search tools. And when a student clicks on this, they're taken to this window where they can enter into a conversation with a CU librarian. So again, these are CU librarians. It's not outsourced to someone else. It's us here locally, and it's staffed and open primarily during regular business hours. And I'll say, I get quick questions on here like, I found this awesome article, but I can't get to the PDF. It keeps prompting me to pay for it. Can you help? I get questions like that, to questions even someone's in Norland Library somewhere and it's trying to find their way around. So there's a huge range of the types of questions that we get on Ask a Librarian, but it's a really fast way to get a response and to move out of a roadblock, a research roadblock. In addition to that, we also have what we call research consultations. And this option, when students go here, they're taken to a screen that looks like this, where they can select a date and a time to meet with a librarian. They'll typically receive a confirmation email with a Zoom link. We'll usually assign them to a librarian associated with the discipline within which they are working. So they really have some expert knowledge moving forward in this consult. They tend to take about 45 minutes, but they can go longer. And what a student can request a consult as many times as they'd like and as would be helpful to them. And for your students, I would point them here to our business librarian team, who are really excellent researchers and will be of great help. The other thing that we do for students who are more interested in doing self-guided learning, we have a number of research strategies guides. And what these guides do is they walk a student through every stage of the research process and give clear tips and strategies, and in some instances, tools that they can use to help them pursue successfully their research or inquiry. Okay, so there's a great deal of information there. That includes things like maybe someone hasn't really engaged with peer review articles for a while. Maybe it's been years. There's a guide that talks about sort of the anatomy or the structure of a research article and how to navigate that in a quick and expedient way without being bogged down and reading a ton of 20-page articles only to find they're not relevant to your research inquiry. So this guide does that really well. We also have guides on integrating and citing sources. What are the ethical patterns of using someone else's material in your own research? Things like the difference between summarizing, paraphrasing, or directly quoting a source, how to signal the source and credit the source, and so on. Another guide that we have that I love, I don't know if any of you use these, but there are a number of citation management tools out there. Things like Zotero, Mendeley, EndNote, and Papers are all variations of citation management tools. I will openly admit that I am a Zotero evangelist and will go on and on and on about Zotero if you let me. But the tools really, it depends on your own workflow and research habits, which tool is going to be of best use to you. And if a student isn't really interested in diving deep into one of those tools, there's some easy to use tools like this one, Zotero Bib, which is really quick plug and play kind of citation management system. So those are all these different ways that we can help someone who might be struggling with a research project, from a quick ask us a question to an in-depth consultation to a number of self-guided guides and tools that one might use. So here's the second scenario that I wanted to share as an example. Imagine Natalia is working on a research paper as well, and she's just daunted and overwhelmed. She really is not even sure where to begin and how to start searching because she's new, again, to the university libraries and all the search tools that are available to her. So I want to point out a few of the tools that we have. OneSearch is our most comprehensive tool for searching almost everything in the library resources. So this will search across multiple databases and across multiple collections within the libraries across campus. You might be familiar with OneSearch, but I wonder if you're aware that this year it had a facelift and is now very different than the tool that we had in the spring. So if that's new to you, I encourage you to explore it because there are some new cool features about OneSearch and how to use it. And I'll show you some places to go to learn more about about the new tool in a moment. The libraries also subscribe to over 1,000 other databases. And these databases will typically find fewer results than OneSearch, but they'll be much more precise and situated within particular disciplines. So if rather than looking broadly, a student wanted to focus in, say, within a business industry report or something like that, there are databases that specialize in those areas as well. And you can search these by subject, by discipline, or by format. Yeah, so we have a number of business databases as well, and a few that include company profiles and case study limiters that might be of interest to your students and to you as you continue teaching this semester. We have a number of really, really excellent news sources. Some like this one, the World News Digest, searches across multiple national and international newspapers, but then we also have subscriptions to things like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And this includes subscriptions to the web-based versions, which typically an individual would have to personally subscribe to and pay for, but that's free through the university libraries to students and to faculty. I'm kind of addicted to that option. So yeah, you might want to explore that as well. We have other databases like this one called CQ Researcher, and this database covers contemporary social and political issues of the time. They tend to be largely researched reports that include forecasts for the future, that include multiple points of view from varying experts, a number of citations, and sort of timelines moving forward. They're really great sort of jumping off point reports for students, kind of like many students use Wikipedia, but this is a bit more thoroughly researched and validated. Finally, it's not all just academic materials that we have. We also have a number of streaming video databases that are popular with our students. One is called Canopy and one is called Swank Digital Campus. So perhaps a student just needs a break from studying. They can check out some of these streaming video collections. Yeah, so that I'm going to pause just for 1 second. Does anyone have questions about what I've shared so far? Yes. Anne.
Yes. I'm wondering whether the students that join this program get this kind of overview or an introduction to the library, or how do the students know all of this?
Yeah, well, I was going to do a reveal towards the end, but maybe I'll do it now. I have been working with Pilar, and we've made a sort of a customized guide for your students, and that content is now available in their orientation Canvas course. Pilar, do you want to expand on that at all? Did I represent that accurately?
Yes, you did. And thank you so much for putting together that beautiful set of information. I think it's going to be super useful for the students. What Caroline has developed, it's now embedded in the ORE resources course that went public as from yesterday. And I was planning to tell you more about it, if not today, in the first faculty staff meeting. But it's going to be available to them, and we're going to actively promote it among the students.
That's great. This is one of the areas that they really need help in. And I was also thinking, as Caroline was talking about, maybe adding something in the syllabus about research expectations, the value of research, the learning that you get from research, because so often I think the students research to validate their own opinion rather than to form an opinion. So thank you. And I don't want to take us off course from what you planned, but I'm glad to hear that that's in place. So yeah, thank you.
And I'm glad to hear your perspective on that too. And I think that's something we stress quite a bit, that that research is an iterative and messy process quite often as you learn and then discover new things and take pivots and turns. And yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more about that. Yeah. So I will keep going with a few more things, and then we can ask more questions if folks have them. For distance learners in particular, I wanted to share a couple of things. Students can access our electronic resources pretty much anywhere in the world with an internet connection. When they are off campus and they go to access a full text or a PDF of any of the materials that we have, maybe an ebook that we have, they'll receive a federated identity prompt like this one that you see on the screen, and they'll just need to enter their identity, username, and password, and they should seamlessly be connected to our resources. As I mentioned, we also have a dedicated guide for your students, and I'll share that. Oops, I thought that was it, but oh, here it is. That covers a lot of what I'm saying here and also kind of covers some of the content that's in the resources guide as well. But in addition to connecting electronically to our resources, we have relationships with a number of libraries across the nation that offer reciprocal borrowing privileges. The way a student signs up for that differs institution to institution, so they'll need to contact that library. But on this page, they can find out which libraries participate in that reciprocal borrowing system. So that's a way they can get print materials if they so chose. We do have an enormous collection of electronic resources, books, journals, videos, and so on. So their needs may be met simply through connecting with their identity. But if not, that option is available to them as well. As we were just mentioning, the content that we put into the course, I just wanted to quickly, if I have time, show you what it looks like, give you a sneak peek. So basically, it takes students through a few pages, reviewing much of what I've already shared with you, how to connect with your librarians, whether that's chatting with the librarian, calling a librarian, emailing your librarian, or scheduling a research consultation. And this particular link is customized to go to the business team of research librarians, so your students will be directed there. There are a few pages that orient them to the library's website to sort of what are the key tools and things that you're going to find on this page and how might I use it. So that describes that to them. The next few pages really dive deeply into the OneSearch tool that I was talking about a moment ago. It points out all the features like signing in with your personal account, about using my dashboard to save searches and save resources. That's all detailed here. And then this next few pages talk about how to read the results. Like what are you looking at when you do a search, and what are the things you can do with those search results to keep moving forward in your research. There's a quick little video that wraps all of that up into a video version rather than just that image version that students can explore. And then finally, one thing that we've done is thinking about the kinds of things that your students are researching. We've pulled together the databases that are most highly recommended for that kind of investigation and put them into this page for you and your students. One thing that we also answer a lot of questions about are how to access full text and PDF. So these next couple of pages do just that, talking about how to use these different features to get the materials they need. And then finally, I don't know if any of you use Google Scholar a lot, but a lot of our students seem to. So on this page, we walk through how to set up Google Scholar settings so that it connects to the CU library resources. So you're not prompted to pay for anything. Instead, you're prompted to sign in with your identity, username, and password, and you won't hit or encounter any paywalls as you do so. So that information is there as well. And then finally, you know, if they still have questions, how to get in contact with us. So I hope that this is our first iteration of this, but hopefully it will be useful to your students and informative, and hopefully encourage them to not hesitate to reach out to their librarians. And then I think I had one more thing I wanted to share. We have a tool called Sage Business Cases that I thought you all might be really interested in. Let me copy this URL, throw it in the chat. And the reason I wanted to point this out to you in particular is it's a digital collection of business cases on a wide variety of subjects like entrepreneurship, healthcare, leadership, social enterprise, and more. And those cases are available to people who log in with their identity. But an additional feature to that is a teaching resource component. To get that access, you need to email my colleague, Natalia Dolan. She just changed her last name, so I keep tripping when I say her name. But if you email her, she'll give you instructions on how to get the teaching resource access. And what it does is it walks through the case study, but it also provides like some classroom discussion prompts, some additional resources that a teacher might find useful as they are sharing this case study with their students. And so that's all she wrote. That's all I have for you today. It was very quick and compressed, but hopefully it was enough to let you know what's out there for you and as well for your students. I will throw the link to my slides in the chat. You'll find that many of the slides are linked to the resource that I'm describing on each slide, so that'll take you directly to those pages. And I'll stop now and ask if you have any questions.
For those Canvas materials, you know, you said that was in the student orientation. Now, can we also have access to that set of slides so that I'm sure questions will come up as we're teaching, so that we can then refer to those, maybe also refresh ourselves, you know, have the applicable links and whatnot on hand.
Pilar, do you want to answer that? I assume they have access.
Yeah, absolutely, Gregor, and totally. And I can give you also access. I'm not sure if you have it. The Canvas course, the resources Canvas course, has been in the making for a while. So we gave very limited access to a few people who really needed to. But from now on, the idea is that everyone who needs it, who wants it, it's a self-enrolled course. So you will have access to all those resources too.
Great, thank you.
And I want to reiterate how grateful I am to you and how lucky we are to have found you, and that you were willing to put all these resources together in such a comprehensive way. And I think it's also very user-friendly. I've got multiple inputs from different faculty members that, you know, students are not very comfortable and familiar with the library resources, and to be able to give them access to these super clear to understand guide, I think it's going to be huge for them, and hopefully faculty will see the outcome of this access to resources. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, well, I will share again that on that last slide is my email address as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me if questions arise for you or for your students. And I'm wishing you a wonderful fall semester. Unless you have additional questions, I'll let you move forward with your day.
Super helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline. Bye.
Okay.
I think I will go back to the last 2 slides, and we're almost done. Hang in there. Okay, let me see if you see the next slide that I think Mark is going to present.
Yeah, so you know, essentially as we move forward together as a team, right? Just some hopes and desires and dreams of how we'll work together, right? That we're inclusive, that we bring all voices to the table, that every voice is in the room, that we learn from one another, that we're able to really imagine what is possible with this program and begin to work together, bringing our expertise, our contacts, our ideas, so that we build something that ultimately makes a lasting and positive difference in the world. So we will provide those opportunities. Again, very cognizant that some of us have day jobs as well. And so, you know, we encourage you to engage when you're able to engage, but also understand that, you know, sometimes you're going to have to keep the main thing, and that's okay too. But you're always welcome, and your input is always encouraged. Next slide, please. And then just, you know, this was dropped in by Joel, but I think he covered it earlier. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything I feel the need to reiterate here. Just that, you know, this could be fun. You know, I mean, this is a fun industry. We've got passionate students. Let's enjoy the ride. Let's work together to make something very, very special. So I think I don't think there are any more slides, are there, Pilar? Just a thank you slide. Perfect. So we feel very lucky to have each of you on the team. Our students are incredibly lucky to learn from each of you. You know, I again acknowledge what a heavy lift this has been to build these courses. So I'm very grateful. We're all very grateful for each of that. And I also want to reiterate the fact that I want this to be a win-win for you guys. So whatever you want out of this, let's talk, right? I mean, if you want to be more engaged in certain aspects, less engaged in other aspects, if you want to teach more, if you want to teach less, if you want to be involved in strategy discussions, if you want to represent ORE at conferences, let's talk. You know, I'd love to explore all that's possible. And as members of the ORE community, I wish I had a big rollout here, but I will say that Catherine is hot on the tracks of creating some swag. So we'll make sure that we when we get this swag, that you are the first ones to receive it, so that you can be out there proudly representing us with whatever it is, hats or water bottles, whatever it may be. So thank you again to Pilar and Catherine, who were really the brain children behind this and putting this together for us. I know it was a big investment in time. And that's all I have. Any questions, comments to wrap us up here before we get you out of here?
Well, I just want to say thanks to Pilar for doing the work with the library. I think that's going to really help the students a lot. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I second that, and all the resources that, you know, Pilar and Catherine have largely just run with, creating, you know, newsletters and job boards and orientation courses and resource courses, and that's all just due to their passion and commitment to the student experience in this program. So thank you both.
I want to say that I think, and I can speak for both of us, correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, but I think we are both super excited to start the new year. We feel like we survived the first year with lots of uncertainties and not knowing as we were doing. And we feel like we are at the really beautiful place where we can really excel and really do much better for our students and for you and for the program. Well, Mark says having fun. I always say that's a very important piece of our day-to-day job. We need to make sure we have good labs and really, you know, because that's going to translate in the students as well. So super excited about the new academic year. Mark mentioned the faculty handbook. I'm getting close to end version. And I'm trying to think the best way to share with you, because there will be more updates coming up. So I'll probably be sharing that the first time we have our faculty staff meeting, so that it will be available for you, knowing that it will be kind of work in progress because there are always new things to add, but coming soon. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to see you all.
Yes. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.
Everyone.
Good seeing y'all.